You're listening to the iRacers Lounge podcast, where we discuss everything iRacing in a casual setting. Enjoy. Welcome to the iRacers Lounge. I'm your host, Mike Ellis. iRacers Lounge is a podcast for the iRacer, where we talk all things iRacing in a casual setting. Joining me are the usual characters, David Hall.
Yep.
Hey, Summer. Greg Hectus.
Greg's there, but we're not getting any sound from him.
He's back. Mackenzie Stevens. Welcome.
Hey, how's it going?
Well, on this show, we take a look at one of the best Coke races ever. We talk new graphical updates coming, and the FIA gets involved in iRacing, and much, much more. Come on in and take a load off.
Also, don't forget that you can follow along with us on your PC or your mobile device in real time as you listen to the show and see for yourself all of the great topics and products we'll discuss by visiting iRacersLounge.com and selecting the show notes. We hope to see you there. All right, let's start off with the highlights from the Coke race.
Yes. Boy, what a race. I don't think I've seen a Coke race yet that lived up to expectations like this one. I mean, at the end of this, like the last, 10, 20 laps, whatever, man, they were dicing it up. There were guys with 2 tires up front. There were guys with 4 tires coming, and so on. And there were 5 or 6 cars, racing for the lead, and Jimmy Mullis, back in glory, looking for a win after some 50 races without one. He was in the mix, and Garrett Maines was right there at the end. Now, Garrett Maines, he's like a hard charger guy, and he was second, on the white, and he was trying to get to Tucker Minter's bumper, and he actually hit him, but it wasn't enough to make a difference. And so Tucker Minter ends up taking the win, his second win of the year for the eNASCAR rookie. So he's definitely probably our rookie of the year with 2 wins on his resume now. I don't know what it was. Was it Charlotte? Was it the next gen package? The weather that they used? I don't know, but it was a great package. It was a great race. People were getting runs. There was passing. I was very entertained.
All right, I didn't get to catch it. I was busy working, trying to learn how to drive at Gateway.
Trying the keyword.
Yeah, pretty much. Okay, we can move on to the next thing. Greg, let's just push you right back into the front. The grass is always greener.
Yeah, so we got an update. You guys can hear me now, right, though?
Yeah.
Okay, so we got an update from Greg Hill here on Willow Springs, and he kind of gave a little bit of an insight into how tough Willow Springs was of a task that they kind of accomplished here of getting it ready. He was saying in the tweet that Willow Springs was a challenge yet fun project for our team. Due to the unique landscapes, the project pushed them hard to innovate. We developed advanced multi-material shaders. We finally final debut of the foliage system, and we have completely redone our off-track terrain process. So it's gonna look good. I know it's obviously hard. Willow Springs is mostly desert stuff. It's not too complicated. Like there's not a lot of visual things, but you got to make it look interesting. It can't just be sandy color and then some tarmac, right?
Yeah, and so it's a nice long dissertation. They put it on the forums. They made a page about it. They put it on the Twitter and so forth about these new graphical enhancements, and that's really what this is. And he says not only will it affect this Willow Springs project, but all projects going forward. And they will backtrack to other tracks on some of these new systems, like um, you mentioned the foliage one. And so let me read a couple of comments about that. It says the variety of plants and grasses really put this system to the test and let us find the limits of the system as well as the balance between aesthetics and performance. Just like with textures, the requirements of this track really demanded this new feature and improvement to do it justice. So we're happy to debut it here.
You can tell on the screenshots how there's different types of grass, and it's not just the dirt. First of all, the dirt does have a texture that you would see in a western desert, which is not always dirt. So it's almost more like clay, right? And you can actually see some just grass popping up here and there, real thin or little patches.
And he says here he calls the terrain anything that's actually not the track. We put one of our best technical artists on the task and paired him up with a lead rendering engineer. They overhauled the whole process from the modeling and texture application to the mapping and the blending. What we ended up with is a shader that stands up to the close scrutiny and gets us close to visual parity between the bits you drive on and the bits you don't. This will be great for camera placement, replays, and for the broadcast team who will be able to show more of the scene than in the past. Finally, I want to mention this. He says, our whole team contributed towards the result, from our multi-decade veterans to the amazing new hires we brought on. So much energy to the company. This work will pay dividends at all new tracks going forward and older tracks we revisit. There are also many tooling, piping, and rendering improvements in the works for the future, including some near-term enhancements to the Sky and Horizon model that will be ready soon.
I I think looking at some of the screenshots, you can even tell um, it's hard to go from the asphalt to the curb to, the clay surface, like David was saying. You can see in the visual that it's, you know, where it kind of trails off and down into the crevice of the dirt there on of the, uh, of the curbing there. And the textures on the curbing and stuff is like top notch the way it looks. It looks very rough. It looks like it's been worn in and everything like that.
Yeah, when you get a blow up shot on from the Twitter, I mean, you're right, Greg. The way it looks, I mean, man, it looks realistic. It's really hard to tell. Is this a fake photo? I mean, you can almost tell by the clouds or the sky more than the ground. The ground looks realistic.
Well, and I think the hardest part here with Willow Springs is everything's a distance shot, right? Like you got the close textures and stuff that you're racing on, but Willow Springs is about the far off distance and how wide, like there's just nothing around but like mountains or hills, whatever you want to call them, and then the things off in the far distance.
As I was watching the videos they put out that we'll talk about later on Willow Springs, as I was watching those, there are no visual markers, as you call it. You know, when you get to a braking zone, sometimes there's a tree or there's a 3, 2, 1. There's little signs on the wall, and you know where to brake because you visually have visual markers. But out here in the desert, they're hard to find.
I was thinking what some of the stuff that they've got these improvements for. I said like some of the foliage stuff. I wonder if it's like that would benefit, like if they you got some more of the F1 tracks. So like if you get Albert Park, if they ever do Albert Park in Australia, that's it's a very very um, green piece of land that they race on the island there, and it would be very I hope that something like that can benefit them if they ever do bring something like that to the sim.
So I'm just taking a look at the website for Willow Springs, there's actually 7 different layouts. I wonder if they're going to be able to include most of them. One of them's a go-kart track, so I know they wouldn't include that. But there's a stadium oval type track. There's several different sizes of a road. They have a street track too, where I guess they go in and out of the track, almost kind of like Nürburgring. Looks neat. I'm curious if IMSA and WEC will start going there some in the schedule. We can move on to the next one. I'll kind of take this one. The brand new race car is coming. It's coming in the next build, and y'all talked me into thinking it was going to be the Cadillac, but if y'all remember, I said that it kind of reminds me of the sound of those LMP3s that I heard at Daytona live. Now, guess what we got coming out? It's the Ligier JSP 320, and it's an LMP3.
Ligier, I don't know if I'm familiar with the brand, but that's a team name, or
Isn't it Liger?
Liger?
I guess it could be.
I'm not saying I'm right or wrong. I thought it was Liger. I could be wrong.
I don't know. I just said it that way because there's a brand of reed that actually comes from France that's called Ligier, except it's spelled with an E. So it could be either one. It's interesting.
Nice looking car.
Yeah, it looks nice. I noticed this in the real track too. It looks like it's actually a little bit either shorter or tall. Well, like wheel to wheel shorter or taller, because the cockpit seems to be taller than the P2 and P1 seems to be.
I'm guessing it's more of like you're saying, David. They narrow the wheelbase so it goes up higher, right?
That it's one of the two. It looks. It doesn't look like the front to back is as long, or it looks like the windshield is just more up. Is that just me, or do y'all see that?
Yeah, it looks tall. I think it's got an air box up there that maybe makes it look tallery too.
All right, a little fill in from Bobby, who's following along. It's a chassis manufacturer. That's who that Ligier or Liger is.
Yeah, so there's a car for sale. There's a track for sale. They really pushed videos on this car over the last week because this is the end of the season. We got week 13 coming up.
And I lose track of the weeks on the A races because we're focused more on NIS right now. So I'm like, oh really? Is that already that time again? I don't like it when NIS is week 13 when we still have an NIS race because there's no A opens to practice.
Is week 13? It doesn't fall on the Father's Day week, does it?
No, next week.
Okay.
Oh, so it's Sonoma.
So you can't even practice. You only get the NIS.
Well, that's different. You don't really have to practice race conditions at the road courses because you basically, especially with Sonoma, you just race the track. And you're either going to finish it or you're not.
That'll be something if I get to race it, I probably won't finish because I just can't figure out the cup car on a road course for some reason.
Don't base your whole experience on Coda. Okay, Sonoma's a little bit easier.
Sonoma, I don't know if you. Yeah, do you remember, David? Last year, Coda was awful with the next gen car, and then Sonoma was a lot better.
It was the opposite for me. I did well at Coda and still suck at Sonoma. I
Are we
liked
doing the
Coda.
carousel?
No, it's
No.
the shorter version. Coda, it has so many, I guess, long straights and hard braking zones, which I tend to do better at. And whereas Sonoma is all this half throttle crap through like almost half of the track.
Yeah, and since we don't go through the carousel, you're even less time full throttle. But I think right now we're coming into the best part of the season for me to get back racing because we're going to a bunch of road courses and street courses coming up.
I still haven't bought Chicago.
Sounds like I got some traveling to do. Or maybe I should just go ahead and wreck somebody on purpose and take a vacation.
Oh God, here we go.
All right. I know my answer for this one. What do you think, Mackenzie? Should iRacing add Monaco?
Yeah, Noel Marjanovic put in the iRacing forum here. He says he doesn't know if it's already been discussed, but he thinks that the Monaco circuit would be a great addition to the iRacing tracks. He says, especially with the slow car class cars, it could produce some amazing racing. He says, for example, the Porsche Cup, because they drive there in real life. He said, add some rain into the mix, and this could be a real challenge.
Guys, there's a poll up too, and the votes are 315 voters. 66% want to see the new Monaco circuit in iRacing. 14% said I'm not so sure about this, and 19% said never.
Well, we're okay with it because the F1 cars aren't that popular to be running anyway, so you don't have to worry about those cars racing on it. It would be every other class that would be fun for it. I think the only way they can get Monaco wasn't there a couple tracks that they acquired by just getting the the scan from somewhere else. Like they didn't personally go and scan it. They'll have to do that with Monaco probably.
Maybe, but
Right.
they also have a much faster way to scan now, just with literally a mobile scanner. They don't have to just pop a bunch of lasers and set them all up and sit around the track forever.
Well, the problem, like I said, I think we've explained this a couple times about this. Monaco, when they're not racing on it on the weekend, they open it back up. So it's never really like they open up certain streets so that they can still move around at it when they're not racing on it, unless that's changed over the years. But I remember you used to be able to drive it later on.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they would have to scan it during the weekend of the race.
but I believe it's been 30 years since there's been a green flag pass for the lead with the Formula car.
96.
But the guy does have a good point that it might be fun in some of the other cars.
Is it more of people want it for the triple, for the crown, like your Monaco, the Indy 500, the Coke 600, all in the same day?
Well, to do that, we'd have to have the Indy 500.
Seems like we're losing more from that than we're gaining anything from this. We're losing those from the service.
So sit basically about 2/3 in favor, 1/3 opposed, essentially. All right, Mike. SimPits posted a video on how to become an esport pro.
Yes, he did. And I sat through this and listened to what he had to say. And Sean Cole from the Sim Pit. The first thing I was thinking, does Sean Cole know how to become a pro sim driver? Because he's not one. So maybe he doesn't know, but I gave him the benefit of the doubt and watched his video anyway. And I have to agree that, common sense says that what he put down is the correct things you need to become a pro sim driver. So let's break it down. Number one was develop your passion, skills, and knowledge. Two, communities and competing in leagues and tournaments. Three, building your brand and networking. Four, drive, practice and racing. Five, continuous improvement, adaptability, and knowledge. Six, pick a sim and join a team. So what do you think? Did he leave anything out?
I think it should be practice, 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 and drive.
Right.
But I think that's basically what he means, though. We talk about the Coke drivers basically almost burning out because of how many hours they have to put in just on testing sets, and it's a grind to go through the Truck Series. I followed Derek Limke's adventure in that, and it's a grind, and there's a whole lot of competition out there, and the amount of time they spend into it, you got to have the talent and put the time in both.
And you want to get your name out there. You want to be known in these big events. The Firecracker 400 or the Podium 500. Some of the league events that or offshoot events that happen that a lot of the main people run in, and then get involved in official stuff on a regular basis. Like, for example, Malik Ray, one of the Coke drivers, you can often find him in A Fixed. And so you want to race with Malik, go join A Fixed, an official race. And so you got to be out there. You got to be driving. You got to be usually on the Twitch, doing a stream, trying to build up a platform of people, a network of people. And that's important too, I think. As the guys come into the Coke Series as rookies, the fans are going to gravitate to the people that are more social, more outgoing. They put themselves out there on the stream and that kind of stuff, versus the driver who keeps to himself. He doesn't have any presence, on social media, that kind of thing. And so you can see the difference between them easily. And I think the last thing I'll throw out to join this list is it won't work for everybody, okay? Just because you want to doesn't mean it will work. You have to have that alien DNA, I guess I'll call it. That's a title idea, alien DNA.
Yeah, it's something I tell my students that are really good with musicianship is that you're really good, but you're in a small town, and as good as you are, there is still going to be hundreds of thousands of other players or singers on the same level, and you're good enough, but there's hundreds of thousands of people who are good enough that don't even make it.
So, David, what I would expand on that, then you also have to be around at the right time for the right opportunity.
Yeah, because some of it does come down to luck. I mean, everybody that makes it big has what it takes, but there's a lot of people who have what it takes who don't make it big.
Yeah, and so if you're on the oval path, I mean, it's pretty easy to get involved in Road to Pro. It's an official series and it will open to everybody. But you can't just walk into that and think it's going to work. You have to fill all these other voids that we've been talking about.
All right, Greg, where the ovals at?
I'm trying to figure out if I missed something here. Can somebody give me the context to what this is actually referencing?
Of the forum post is what it's referencing. What happened to Mitchell Qualls? So Mitchell Qualls has been the guy who put up a hosted event in the hosted every hour, every day of the week, 7 days a week, 365 days a year for maybe 8 years. I want to say 7, 8 years by memory. And so he disappeared. Those hourly sessions disappeared, and so that's what prompted this forum post, Greg, is what happened to Mitchell Qualls?
Maybe someone finally is collecting on the debt that he's accrued in iRacing credits.
Wait, or no, I bet you if he probably got one of those like mega passes where he has 10,000 iRacing credits.
I think, yeah, he sat down at some point and set up, repeated, hosted events that just go continuously. And what is he paying? I think 50 cents a pop, I think is the lowest amount you can pay. And so do the math, people. I just want people to do the math. I mean, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, times 7 or 8 years, times 50 cents each time. How much money are we talking about?
I would bet money he had credits saved up, or is just loaded, one of the two. But there's no update, so we're still waiting to hear.
It only comes out to like
That formula I just called out, $245,280. He did a hosted session continuously for 8 years, every hour. That's how much it cost.
it's only $12 a day though. Times 365. It's not that much.
Did I do the math wrong? Wait.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's only 35,000 for 8 years.
Yeah, 35,000.
Okay, well done. 35,000. That's still a lot of money.
That's a car. That's a car, like a decent car.
Now, I can't tell you how many times I've raced in a Mitchell Qualls hosted room. And I love it because it's great for the community because you get these drivers coming in that don't know anybody, they don't have a team, they don't know what to race. They don't know if they're allowed to join these hosted sessions or not. I mean, click it, go on in, join. The people in there are friendly, and there's always a lot of admins. They always have 10, 20 admins usually out of the group, and but yeah, I mean, it's always been a good race. It was usually restrictor plate racing, and that's I think how I got good at restrictor plate racing was running Mitchell Qualls rooms. Anyway,
Well,
he's gone.
speaking of restrictor plate racing, you need to watch this video from Moonhead. This is some insane restrictor plate racing.
I'm so worried for him. He's gonna have a heart attack one of these days announcing these.
He's a little too excited, or
He's just
They're going 5 wide. 3 wide is tame.
but he's below the yellow line. That is just awesome.
I like how they get to the last lap coming to the checker, and they just start piling up left and right, and it's like a survival. Like, who's going to survive to the end?
And then the language.
Yeah, I think that's what makes it so entertaining. Is the guys, I will call it a redneck call of the race.
Oh, at the end, this guy tries to make a pass through the grass.
Yeah,
Shortcut the track.
I thought he was gonna take it at first.
That was
But wait,
close.
he cuts through the grass trying to make a shortcut instead of going through the tri-oval. He almost wins it doing it.
There must be some kind of special no rules thing kicked into this league.
Well, he got wrecked down into the grass. It's not like he went down there on purpose.
Yeah. I don't think that probably would have counted though.
If it was a legit wreck, why not? Unless it actually gave him a time, like a slowdown.
I don't know if you cut it that far. I guess in an oval there isn't really any time, cutting the course.
Now, that guy's flying across the grass full speed, and he's aiming, and he actually hits the leader right before the line. Maybe if he didn't aim for the leader and he went by the leader instead, he might have won it.
I don't know if he had enough. I think it's because he didn't have enough momentum still. He was still the leader had so much speed.
You can't control the direction the car is going in the grass either. You're basically skating at that point.
He was still carrying a decent amount of speed coming out of the grass, though.
Yeah, he kept in the throttle for sure, didn't he? Pretty neat video.
All right, Greg, I got to throw this one to you too because you're kind of one of our formula guys. And It looks like iRacing's partnering up with FIA. This is a nice surprise.
Mike, take the beginning of it here. I'm just looking up one statistic for the FIA. I was just trying to find a number while we were talking.
Yeah, so here's the announcement by FIA themselves at their website. The FIA is today pleased to confirm its official partnership with iRacing to bring a licensed FIA Formula 4 experience to the platform. As part of the agreement, the car currently known as the iRacing Formula IRO4 will be relaunched as the FIA F4 with iRacing's 2023 Season 3 release in June next week. Love this. I've been running too, the IRO4. And so if I keep running it, boy, I may be running FIA official racing. I think that sounds so cool. What does it mean, though? I don't know.
Well, here's what I was kind of looking up, Mike, to see what it means. So the FIA oversees seven or sanctions seven different series. So they have Formula One, the World Rally Championship, World Rally Cross Championship, World Endurance Championship, Karting World Championship, the World Rally Raid, and Formula E Championship, World E Championship. So like, there's opportunities to maybe even looks like there's some maybe down the road there's some series that we don't even have any cars for there that we could eventually have joining iRacing maybe if it's a good partnership.
Pretty cool. Here's a quote I'm going to read from the FIA director. This partnership with iRacing is an important step for grassroots motorsports development. The virtual racing space is a key area for the FIA in its goal to double global participation in motorsport, both as a discipline in its own right and as a route into real-world competition. The next generation of racing drivers is already highly engaged in this arena, which removes many of the historical barriers to entry by being low cost and easily accessible, opening up possibilities to increase diversity and engagement in new and emerging markets. Formula 4 championships certified by FIA represent the first step for drivers to move from karting to car racing, and to have a highly respected industry-leading partner in iRacing bringing this global framework online is fantastic news.
So there could be something along the lines of the Skip Barber series where there ends up being some carryover into real racing, possibly for the top winners, based on what I heard there.
Possibility. Yeah.
That's got to be hard. Like the one thing with those series, you think you got to have some money backing to get you to go do that. So there's got to be um, some sponsor that's gonna willing to take on maybe someone that wins something on here, but because that's tough.
Yeah,
Well,
but there's always a sponsor who wants to bring in diversity, that kind of thing.
and
Women, people of color. Yeah,
who paid for the Skip Barber ride? I think it was Skip Barber.
that's true. I think that was an internal promotion. When I first saw this, I told the group on the chat that this is great because it sets up iRacing for more Formula One or FIA type racing, like you said. Like, does this set us up to be able to take the Formula One license in the future at some point? If by being in bed with the FIA, does that make it easier for us to get the license from Codemasters, if possible?
It'll be neat to see, and the Codemasters contract runs out in 25, right?
Yeah, so that's what I mean is this could set them up, so they could bid on it. With the partnership with Mercedes, and getting the what do they call it? The 13, I guess they call it. Anyway, the Mercedes F1 cars, we've gotten 2 of them now.
I think the other thing is they have to. Um, I think they gotta. This might help them sanction some maybe more.
We lost you.
You hear me now? Um, I think this helps us sanction maybe get some more F1 or more European tracks too that might be deal with the FIA in some of the series. It might help broaden more tracks for the series this year.
Well, I'm gonna definitely participate after week 13 and run some IRO4, or I guess it's called FIA F4 now. Will be the new name.
All right. Well, we already hit it on it a little bit, but we do have the new track announcement from Willow Springs. We've got a YouTube video. We've got a Twitter post and another YouTube video. Tell us a little bit about a Mac.
Yeah, so we got a YouTube video that iRacing put out here for it's got new content, it says, and it's just showing a video of Willow Springs, kind of going through all the landscape of it, and I think they did a really good job on the way that they made the outside of the track look with all the grass and everything, like we talked about earlier. It looks like a really good track. I think the YouTube video and the Twitter video are the same video.
Yeah, the other one's the onboard, and like I said before, that one's real telling on how hard I think this track is going to be to drive, because there's no, there's no visual points, as you're coming up to a corner. Oh, where do I turn in? Where do I turn in?
I didn't realize the amount of elevation change that was in this track also.
Yeah, there is some up and down to it for sure.
Which makes it tough. Like Mike, you were saying, there's no brake markers or anything too. So like you have like over the hill, um, you know, unsighted turns and things like that makes it even tougher.
You'll-
I don't know. Do they have actual racing series that race on this track? I just don't know how popular this is going to be. Like how many people are going to buy it, because nobody's really heard of it until now that I know.
I feel I feel like this is that track that they test, like it would be like take your own car to the track day, or they have track days for someone that owns like a high end Porsche or Mercedes or something like that wants to go out, they can rent the track, or because they even have I think maybe motorcycles and stuff come out there too and just go around. But I think it would be more used as a track day slash fun kind of track. It's not a sanctioned racetrack because there's nothing there that makes it barriers and things like that to make it safe for sanctioned series.
There's no walls. That's true. Yeah, there's a track like this outside Phoenix. It's much like what you described, where you bring your own radical and you race it there, or run laps at. It's not a race; it's a run laps by yourself kind of thing. But Paul Tracy, former IndyCar driver who lives in Scottsdale, he has a radical that he owns. Actually, no, it's not a radical. It's like an LMP2, I think. Uh, but he takes it out there on occasion and he puts up videos and shows it. It's pretty cool.
It looks like they run motorcycles there. And then they do have other stuff. The schedule is kind of hard to read to see what they actually run for races.
Well, actually, you know what, Mike? I was just thinking one of the things that was on, if I remember on this track, they shot. There's a new movie coming out, Gran Turismo, that was based off of when they were doing the a live event, or not the live event, but the TV show where the guy won a seat at driving for the GTR team for Le Mans. He won it from but they were using Willow Springs in that show to shoot that show as the track that they were racing on in the Nissans, from what I remember. So that sometimes maybe it's used for filming too.
I think they're going to film Fast and the Furious 35 there.
They can like rent the track out, kind of thing. Cool.
There is such a thing as club racing too, where they actually a bunch of Porsches or just sports cars will run amateur races.
Minis, BMWs.
Yeah, it looks like they do that, motorcycles, and then they do drifting too there.
Yeah, if there's no barriers, that's probably pretty popular there then.
So the only way you destroy your car is if you roll it or you hit another car.
Or you fly into one of those hills and just do something there.
They also have a quarter-mile paved oval there.
Yep. I mentioned that in the layouts.
Next All-Star race for the Cup cars.
They haven't teased that though, so I don't know if we're getting it.
All right, Greg, I think you want the next one.
Yeah, so we got another news here. It's kind of just, I'm sure we're just kind of updating it, but Lewis Hamilton, are the fastest pit stop posted a quote from Lewis Hamilton, where they're talking about the Barcelona circuit this weekend because they've taken out the chicane, which is, I agree with his statement here. He goes, "Our cars have never liked the chicane. I've never liked it. So we're going to come out of turn 12 and then flat, probably flat out through the last two. It's going to be great for our necks, great for, sorry, I'm loading it, great for our tire wear, and it's going to be fun." Now, I was looking on the actual site. So we do have this configuration where it is. It's called the historical. I'm wondering if that now becomes that they just change the names, or it becomes the Grand Prix circuit, or does iRacing just leave it as historical on iRacing?
That's what I was going to ask. Obviously, we don't need to rescan the track, right? Because the chicane is still going to be there even though they're not using it, right?
Yeah, they have this layout. It was one of the layouts that they used to run. That's why they called it the historical, because the chicane was added, I don't know, a long time ago. But it's not a very, it's a, I think they were thinking it was going to create passing, but it's kind of just, it doesn't really do anything. It's a place to get X's. From whatever I race on that track, it's a place to gather up an X for hopping a curb or something.
So maybe we just need to relabel the layouts, like you said, and change the Grand Prix one to what the current Grand Prix one is, right?
Kind of like with Sonoma. All right, I remember this one coming up in chat a day or two ago. We've got a real car versus iRacing video. Mike, I think you gave this one a good watch.
Yeah, Daniel Morad, basically telling us again how much he likes the braking in iRacing compared to other sims like ACC. He rates it, I think he said an 8.5 out of 10. Well, they gave Assetto Corsa like a 2. And I think Donnie and I were kind of going back and forth about this because who's to say what's right and what's wrong? All of us who've never really been in a real race car, we have no idea what feels right or not, when it comes down to it. And so it's so neat to have a real race car driver like this validate what we're feeling. Validate, look, this does feel like braking. And he describes in this video a braking technique that David actually taught me when I was running the Porsche 919. When I go into heavy braking, the downforce comes off the car when you slow down, and you can't keep the same brake pressure. You actually have to back off the brake or you'll lock them up. And it took me forever to figure that out, that you have to brake a little bit, and as soon as the downforce comes off, let off and just kind of trail brake it into the corner. And as Daniel Morad describes very well, it's a finesse. And he indicates that iRacing really models that very well.
Well, there's two things happening when you're coming in, especially in any car, but especially the high downforce cars. Not only do you lose the downforce the slower you get, once you start to turn, your tires are having to work on turning the car as well as slowing it down, and you only have so much grip. So the more you turn the wheel, the less you have to brake.
Brake in a straight line, then turn, kind of thing.
You do a really, if you ever look at it on telemetry, you want to make a wedge shape. You're going to see it spike up and then trail off basically almost the whole time. It'll look like a, a wedge. And if you were trying to say golf wedges, it would be a ridiculous wedge because it would be like 80 degrees.
And so part of his video was to run his real car around the track and get a lap time, and then go into the simulator and do the same lap. And he got within a tenth, I think. It was within a tenth. He said he had to change the setup on the iRacing car to match his real car to get the times close. And it wasn't the optimal setup, he said, for iRacing, by the way, as well, when he did that. But he was trying to make it match up, and he was able to. Pretty cool. It's a neat watch.
All right, Mackenzie, what is this next video? It says on the thumbnail, pit lane hacked.
Yeah, so this is a YouTube video by TP Sim Racing. So he's using the pit speed limiter. So the first time he just goes through, just hitting that limiter the whole time, straight through. And then the second time, like he sets the mark, so he goes back to the same spot. What he does is just shifts up and down between gears, and it seems to jump him up like 1 or 2 miles per hour. So he actually gets through pit speed faster doing that. So he's calling it a pit lane hack.
Yeah.
Now he does mention he doesn't know if this would react the same way in every car, but at least in the car he was using, it worked.
If I remember correctly,
I'm sorry, Greg. I was going to say there was a third thing he did was basically run it without the pit limiter, I think, and just try to, manually hit the right speed. And he was able to get a little more speed out of it over using the limiter as well, because the limiter don't put you right at the limit. They put you, I think, 1 mile an hour lower or something. And so if you're not using the limiter and you can drive it to the limit, it'll be a little bit faster as well. But I didn't know about the changing gears trick that he documents here, where, yeah, like you said, he just toggles between first to second, back and forth. And while he's on the limiter, and it will bump it up just a little bit. He gained like 4 or 5 tenths over the whole length of the pit road.
well, if I remember correctly, this was done years ago, unless it's broken again. But you could do this with first, second gear. But at some point, sometimes you'll get actually a speeding on pit road because it puts you too fast because it's confused while you're shifting.
The limiter's not holding you back just enough, and then you get a penalty. Maybe, I don't know. Now he's doing it out on the track, not actually on pit road. Driving from one line to another and just looking at the relative or the offset of the best lap time to see how much more time he's gaining.
He should have done it on pit road to actually show you that it actually doesn't give you. I honestly think that it gives you a penalty because it jumps you up.
He did say it won't give you a speed penalty, but without him actually showing it on pit road, there's no way to really know.
This is going to depend. Whether it'll knock you too high is going to depend on the car and the gear in each individual situation.
Yeah, because I would guess like a car that has bigger horsepower, it could push it real fast. Like it would just react that much more, right? Where a slower car is bouncing, doesn't have as much torque to do it.
All right. Wrap this next one up, Mike.
Rig review. Jimmy Johnson has been documenting his Le Mans experience, and if you don't follow Jimmy Johnson on socials, you really should hit the bell so you get every little tweet and Instagram post and everything, because he's putting up some really behind the scenes stuff, including a recent stint in the Chevy simulator, and we rarely get a look at this thing, and we have a really good picture of it. So I thought we would take a moment to go through and look at the Chevy sim. I mean, what do you guys think of this picture when you blow it up with the cool curved 300? Well, it's not a 360, maybe a 180 degree screen curve though. But what I find interesting is it's not straight up and down. It looks like it's laid back almost at an angle. Do you notice that? Like, look at the screen on the left side of it. I would expect that to be vertically straight up and down, but they got it at like a 25-degree angle.
Is it to make the ground more accurate as you're seeing? Like, is it just, it's got to be the way that the car, because you're sitting in the cockpit and everything?
Oh, I see why. So look at where the projectors are above the car. And so the projector has a straight perpendicular shot at the screen based on the screen angle. So he's got triple projectors in up above the race car in a pipe kind of a pipe roof, I would call it, made out of pipes and different things. And the car or chassis, it's just a partial car chassis. Like the front part of it, there's no back half of the car, and the whole thing is set on these giant actuators. I think there's 6 of them, and that gives you all 6 DOF movement. So this is like the ultimate motion cockpit.
You get me this, and I'd be willing to give up VR.
Do you think they run iRacing on this? Or I know they run their own software. I do know that. But for fun, do you think, oh, let's put up iRacing. Let's try something there. Good point. And it also makes you wonder, how many people or how many jobs are involved in keeping that software up to date? Like they have as good a sim as iRacing does, it probably, if not better. And I mean, what kind of team do they have working on the software side of it? I'd love to learn more about that.
Well, if I remember correctly, each weekend F1, when they go to a track, they collect data to re-update their sim. So whenever they're at a track, the track's updated after that on their sim, for the next season or whatever they want to do to test something. But they collect data all the time.
When you think about the number of employees at Hendrick, for example, there's several hundred, right? Quite a few of those are just software engineers at this point.
Now, here's the other problem that track proposes is that it's a street track, like it's a street course. People drive on all the time. So how do you render something that's always changing? Like it has traffic flow and patterns on it all, like 375 days of the year. It's not a racetrack.
Yeah, I'd love to learn more about how Chevy, Ford, Toyota, even like the F1 teams, do their sims.
All right, that moves us on to events, and I'll pick up a little bit of this first one. Um, this is another example of a league basically making a transition from online racing to real racing. If it's the Prodigy Racing League, and they're kicking off their inaugural season June 19th. with iRacing in the GR86 with a Cup Open Challenge. And essentially, it's going to be the first series they boasted as the first series that's designed to transfer over to real life. But we're talking gray area there because Skip Barber has already done that. But top performers in this series, as well as numerous other PLR events through the rest of the year, they're going to earn the opportunity to compete in the Radical SR1 in the inaugural Prodigy Week at Atlanta Motorsports Park in October 30th through the November 1st weekend.
This is cool. So racingprodigy.com, you go there and you learn that you run a time attack, a single driver time attack, starting Monday, June 19th. The top 40 drivers based on speed, and you have to be registered at racingprodigy.com, which is free, by June 25th. So you have between June 19th to June 25th to put up a time attack. They're taking the top 40. Then there's a semifinal. Top 10 of each semifinal race move on to the final, and that's July 1st. And prizing, you get your ticket to Real World Racing. Second place is Invicta direct drive wheelbase, and the third place is a Sim Lab P1X cockpit. Entry is free.
You know, it in a little bit of reflection, none of this was going on when I first came on the show pre-COVID. Did I come in 19 or 18?
18 maybe. You're right. This stuff never happened.
We were starting to just talk a little bit about the crossover, you know, and can it help you in real racing? And I think I remember talking about Timothy Hill more than anybody else probably. But it's here now. There's no line between the two worlds anymore. It's all a part of the same.
See, I remember, was it Gregor Hutu, when he got in the car, and I can't remember the one guy's name. Is it Richard something, or his last name was Richards? He was in the Cup Series. He was really good for a couple years, and he got test in some like legends and stuff like that. Like that's the kind of stuff that was going on before people actually got rides.
Yeah, I think Bono Huis, who was in our World Championship, he ended up in the Race of Champions tournament, the real race. Yeah, so it's a Toyota GR86 free car at Zolder. I don't think I have Circuit Zolder. But man, I might just go put up a time attack lap just to see how I stack up. I want to see who the top 40 are. Get it done. Get involved, guys. Even if you don't think you'll make it, see how you stack up. Go put up that lap, because you might be amazed that, oh, wow, look at all these guys that are faster than me. Holy cow. I don't hear you, David.
I was one of my old push to talk buttons was not working anymore. Sorry about that. Matt, we've got 2 events coming up at the Glen this weekend. One of them involves BMWs, right?
Yeah, we got the BMW M Sim Cup. It's this Saturday. It's the BMW M Hybrid V8 GTP or the BMW M4 GT3. Sorry, I think it's Sunday. It's at Watkins Glen.
Yeah, this is second or third of 4.
Yep, it's got some nice prizes, including a trip to Watkins Glen, I think.
Yeah, finishers get money too. I mean, top podium finishers, 1,000, 500, or 250.
So it's Sunday at 1300 GMT.
So same time as NIS, basically. Right around the same time.
Is that what it is in the morning?
Yeah, subtract 4 for you.
Yep.
The next one is the Watkins Glen 6 Hours, and presented by VCO, and that's June 16th through 18th. So 2 weeks from this weekend. So be ready for that, guys, if you want to participate. Remember, that's the one where they teased the 9 cars instead of 8. So they're gonna increase to 9. We still don't know the car lineup for that, even though it's 2 weeks out.
Well, guessing the lagger.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, we're waiting for that new car.
If it ends up being that, there will be 4 classes in the race instead of 3. And I mean, if they do 5 classes at Nürburgring, so.
Yeah,
And
I think they're waiting for week 10 before they announce it.
It's not on the script, but the Majors 24 starts this weekend as well. I think it's too late to register for that, though, if it's past the deadline, if you haven't signed up.
Podcast housekeeping. Leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform to make it easier for more listeners to find us. Mention the podcast to your fellow drivers so they don't miss out. We do appreciate that. Check out our Discord to get involved in the discussion, and check out the show notes at iRacersLounge.com. We are in regular rotation at the Performance Motorsports Network.
All right, so who doesn't want to talk about fantasy? For the last 2 races, I've had 2 of my picks take each other out.
I forgot to make my picks for this, so I don't even know who I had.
So you're starting to use the Mike strategy.
I'm not even in it. I don't even play anymore. I stopped.
It's hard. I'm just gonna try to keep picking, but it's hard to want to keep trying when you're coming in 30th and 40th every week.
Wow.
Oh yeah, I didn't do good. I was 36.
I think my biggest issue this year is I'm only watching like 40% of the laps on these races. Like it just, life is getting in the way of being home to watch live events this summer, or this time of year so far.
So here's the lineup for fantasy for Charlotte. We have 21F in the lead. Second, Trick Dickel. Third, Fat Boy 1990, our own Tyler Williamson, doing really good, tied for second. And then I'm Not a Professional, fourth. Lumpy 68 is fifth. JTC 11C is sixth, and Canadian seventh. There's Donnie in eighth. Not too bad, Donnie. So he didn't pick Denny Hamlin, I bet. So let's talk Chase real quick. I mean, did NASCAR do the right thing with only 1 race suspension? I was hoping for 2. I think they should have doubled down to nip this in the bud.
They're not gonna suspend their most popular driver 2 races after he's missed enough already. 1 was what everyone figured. That's what he got. It's just what it is.
Surprised, yeah, and there's people who are surprised he even got the 1, considering he is their golden boy. But they would have had egg in the face if they didn't suspend him after the precedent had already been clearly set.
Hey, I'm a huge Chase supporter. I'm a huge, Hendrick Motorsports supporter. He's totally in the wrong. I listened to Denny's podcast. Denny needs to. I know he's trying to create entertainment while he's talking, but it was quite interesting the way that Denny sometimes forgets or twists the truth or forgets things that he's done in his career too. but I don't condone anything he did as a fan of him, or that team. You can't do that.
Yeah.
Do we draw the line at only dangerous intentional wrecks? Because everybody's like, "Oh, you don't right hook him at full speed." Well, what if you just punt him at Martinsville? If it's intentional, it's intentional. Is it about how dangerous it is, or is it whether or not you wrecked him on purpose?
Well, that's not the biggest problem that they're talking about because even what's the guy in the truck series? He's done it a bunch of times and yet nothing's happened. And it's why is that not getting? You'd think you want to nip that in the butt because he's in a lower series trying to, maybe take care of that before it becomes a bigger issue.
So Denny put out on socials a screenshot of the data that apparently he can see of his competitors as well as his own. Throttle trace, brake trace, clutch, and steering. Pretty cool examining the data. First of all, I thought it was neat that he put it out for us to look at. I actually opened it up and examined it closely, trying to understand what I was looking at and trying to understand what he was describing happened so I could see for myself that Chase did this on purpose. Would it be cool if we had the same kind of data acquisition in iRacing? David, you get punted. What do you normally do? You show us a short video on the chat. we determine, is this, what happened? Everyone gives an opinion and then we move on. But what if you had the data of the guy who wrecked you and you could show his steering?
It's never going to happen.
That kind of thing.
It's never going to happen considering the way that we set up our own cars and stuff like that. We have third parties software that does that type of thing. I don't see iRacing ever adding that to the sim. You can see the steering inputs in the replay. If you kind of share your own video, you can see your inputs, and if somebody showed a replay of it. But I don't think you're gonna ever have data like that because I think that could be used to create or steal. I don't know if steal setups but just steal the knowledge of some of the stuff a little bit more than you need for it.
And I don't know if iRacing gets all the telemetry from every race or not, because that would be a shit ton of data.
I don't know if you noticed too. Sometimes when you're watching a car in a replay, you can see the tires turning. It's like it's going full lock straight, full lock straight. It's not really like a smooth movement sometimes.
Yeah, you're not always actually getting the exact steering trace from the other car. And we had an incident where a guy thought he was just bump drafting me. Essentially, he said, "Hey, I thought I was just bump drafting you." Essentially, in the tri-oval of Charlotte, which is not really a good place to try to bump draft somebody. But he said he was on his replay, he was closer to square to my bumper, whereas on my bumper he hit the very edge. So you're not even always in the same place according to your client and the server. All right, do we want? Let's call out the top 5 on the leaderboard for overall.
Overall was Mason Racing leading, Canadian second, Trick Dickel third, GI Jojo 24X fourth, tied for fourth, North South Racing. It's crazy. We have a tie after all these points. Over 2,600 points and they're tied.
All right, let's hit some hardware sponsored by Metro Ford of Chicago. We're going to kick it off with the first item called No Regrets, and it's from OC Racing, who posted the video of the top 7 pieces of hardware that they regret never buying sooner.
Yeah, pretty neat little list. Mouse tray, bezel-free kit, integrated monitor stand, Fanatec H pattern, cheaper Logitech H pattern, cable Velcro straps, power strip box, aluminum profile cable clips. Now, some of these ideas I really like. The power strip box was cool. Uh, you have a power strip, you have all these cables going into it. It makes this real eyesore. Well, you can buy this box that the whole thing sits inside of that's big enough to hide all the wires in, and it makes it look a lot cleaner. I was thinking about getting one,
It's like a 3D printed box.
basically.
There's one that doesn't belong on there.
Fanatec.
Yep. Not that H pattern shifter, that's for sure.
Even I don't know if the second gen has the same issues, but it's just the first gen is just it's god awful.
Mine hasn't been an H pattern in over 2 years.
I would definitely agree with that one as well.
I did like his cable Velcro straps idea for cable management. I use zip ties, and I think maybe the Velcro would be a nicer touch. And then bezel free. I've had bezel free kit, and I got rid of it. I actually sold it because it wasn't compatible with my monitors. Don't forget, bezel free kits are only compatible with certain monitors of certain bezel size.
I just I don't know, maybe it's just me. When I went to triples, I don't see it, so it doesn't bother me.
I have huge bezels, and it doesn't bother me. I see right through them. It's like they're not even there. You get used to it. Your brain just tunes it out. It's just one of those things. Like if you're in an Indy car and you got the halo thing coming down in front of your vision, you just tune it out at some point. You just don't even see it.
It's like your nose.
Right.
For me, watching the video, I think the thing that would bug me about the bezel strips is you can see that it's like it almost looks like a shadow where the strip is, and I think that would bug me more than actually just having the bezel there.
Because it doesn't actually put any new graphics in there. It just kind of hides the fact that there's a lack of color there. All right, Mackenzie, did you see the next one? We're looking at a video about making aluminum better.
Yeah, I did see this. So this is by Alan Kwan. He goes through and he orders the aluminum and basically makes the rig himself. Uses an old seat from an old rig he had, and then he decided he wanted to make it an F1 style. So he buys, I think it's just like an L bracket basically from his hardware store, and bolts that to the rig and to the bottom of the seat. And then he had a sharp corner on it, so he just wraps a bunch of tape around it so he doesn't scratch his leg anymore. Um, yeah, that's about as far as I got. I didn't get to see the whole thing.
Yeah, he also angled up his pedals quite a bit on a much steeper angle by just, like you said, doing some fab work. And this is the beauty of having a rig, guys, is modifying it. Look, I want to do something different. What are we going to do how are we going to change this? At the end, he even shows like this custom bracket that he kind of fabbed up for his camera that sits up above behind his head. Um, and it gives me ideas, on what I might want to do to my rig as well. The camera mount I thought was pretty freaking cool. That kind of was a neat idea.
That scares me. Like that's a nice camera he's got in there, but that scares me being out there on such a tiny little arm. If that just kind of like reminds me of David when his mic dropped on his knee the one time.
Looks a little precarious, yeah. The other thing he did to help with stiffness of the rig is he detailed out on his uprights. he added some additional L brackets on the outside uh, to further match, the uprights to the vertical or the horizontal base. Um, so lots of little tweaks and different things to give people ideas, I guess, on how you might want to modify your rig.
All right, Mike, we have a Cubic Systems QS220PL reviewed by Will Ford.
Yeah, I mean, the title says it all. This motion rig is brutal, but it is a 3 DOF motion system. He bolts it onto his 80/20 rig. He puts it through the paces in the normal Will Ford fashion. He likes it. I mean, it's a typical, D-box style motion system. Pricing 11,245 for the kit.
Do you guys think the one thing I'm looking at, like, obviously the pricing's always like crazy. Do you think we're gonna get it to a point where the pricing isn't like crazy crazy?
I don't know. I mean, the one that Brian bought wasn't terrible. I think he said 3 or 4 thousand. This one's over 11. Now, he really liked the software. I remember him saying that. The other thing he mentioned was delay. With these motion systems, delay is a big problem if there is any, because you don't want to visually hit the bump and then 15, 20 milliseconds later you feel it in the motion system. You want to feel it within a few milliseconds of when you visually see it. So that's really important, and I think he was saying it was under 15 milliseconds. So um, really good stats as far as that goes.
Listener and team member Bobby says most people overspend on travel and only need two to 2.5 inches or so.
Yeah, what is the travel on this one? I didn't see that. I think that might be why it's more money. It's got a lot of travel.
I know Joe's just recently got his motion rig going and has been loving it. Comes on TS talking about it all the time.
Okay, so here it is. Latency less than 8 milliseconds, it says on their page. And the maximum velocity of the units are 800 millimeters. "800 millimeters is 31.5 inches.
All right. What about the MME Sim Sport?
Well, this is quite a shifter. Now, I know some of us been looking for decent shifters. I know Donnie was, man, you want to take a close look at this. It's called MME Sim Sport. And I want to say New Zealand. That's where they're from. But very impressive. There's 3 products. There's a handbrake, there's a sequential shifter, and then there's a bigger unit that is an H pattern / sequential shifter. So it does both. And that one is really the star of the video. Is the one that does both. It's Will loves it. The downside was mounting it. They didn't give him good mounting plates that had holes spaced appropriately that could be mounted easily. And so mounting these to any rig is going to be a challenge. Let's say that. Now, there was a really neat mounting plate that was available for both the handbrake and the shifter, and he does recommend that if you buy both. There's a blue, it's got a really nice blue look to it, but there also is a black version. Quality as far as setting up the stiffness, and does it feel like a shifter? All that amazing. I mean, he had really good stuff to say about it.
It's a tough decision because I want to get a certain sequential shifter, but at the same time, should I completely give up on having an H pattern? Even though I don't even use it in the stock cars anymore.
$750 for the combo unit.
Yeah, that's not that bad for being able to do both.
It's a very high quality shifter though. You compare that like to the probably the best quality one we've seen is that BDH one out of the UK, which was $1,000. This is 750. 750 euros, I should say. But yeah, mounting was difficult, but everything else was great. Plug and play, no software needed. It was really easy to use. Carbon fiber handle. Yeah, if you're looking for shifters, you definitely need to consider this one. Now, this is the first time I think we've talked about this brand on this show, but they're called MME SimSport, and the website is mme-motorsport.com. And these are the only products they really have right now are these shifters I mentioned and the handbrake.
All right, I've only on this last hardware option we've got. It looks like it's talking about a new way to link fans with IQ. Looks like magnetic links instead of, or just plugging them straight into each other instead of having to run in a cable to each one.
This is fascinating to me, especially as I'm contemplating a new build. I'm pretty sure that I'm going to buy into this system. It's by Corsair. They call it IQ Link. And it's a new way of putting fans in a computer. They have a proprietary cable that provides power and connectivity through the same cable. So they have these little hubs, little square boxes that you plug the cable into, and then you route the cable to the fan. And then the fans can be daisy chained, so to speak. And so
they just pop together like Legos.
Right, they stick together, like you said. I don't know if it's magnetic, but it kind of looks like they're magnetic. It's real. They just kind of click together. It looked like
it's plug-in. I got a better view. Yeah, that's handy. Cuts down on the cabling.
It's just a neater way to do it, right? And it's a simpler way to find a problem.
Yeah, the cabling is less. It's going to make a much cleaner look.
Wasn't he saying in the video you can control the RBGE with them, some of them too? Like it's still completely controllable.
It is that. Yeah, I think when Bobby and I were putting together the list for my build, we had Corsair fans, and we picked the RGB ones. And these are the RGB ones. This new system is just a new way of wiring for it, and I like it. So I'm definitely going to look into this further.
Yeah, my fans light up, but I can barely see them through the grill on the front of my computer.
I have my computer on the wrong side because the glass door is on the side facing away from me.
But you can definitely see them from the inside. But I usually have just my memory lights up as well, right? And I usually just have it always set on uh, core temperature, so it just stays the same color. And if it turns red, I know there's a problem. All right. Well, that wraps up the hardware section sponsored by Metro Ford of Chicago.
Let's talk results. NASCAR iRacing Series, the Coke 600, Friday Open P10. I'll take it. The race took 4 hours and 45 minutes. I think that might be a record for my longest NASCAR race ever. 19 cautions. Most of them happened in the last 100 laps, actually. I was involved in an early caution, which took out teammate Justin. Only had a minute and a half damage. At one point through the middle of the race, I actually cycled to the lead, but pretty much ran top five. Was running really good near the end, as high as third, when a guy forced me to the grass, which got me over the incident limit. So I had to do a drive-through penalty. The guy ended up wrecking the leader to win as well. What a loser. And I told him, you shouldn't be proud of the way you won that race. I told him that after the race. I mean, look, he took me out. I was in contention. On the last lap, he literally dumped the guy to win the race. What an ugly way to win. I mean, I just would not be so proud of that. And I told him,
You can actually protest intentional wrecking to take a win.
look, if I was the guy who got dumped for the win, I probably would have done that. But I got dumped well before the end of the race by the same guy, and so yeah. Tony Rochette, P15, started super loose, ended up short pitting twice, and ended up 3 laps down with a 178 lap run. Eventually got it stable and ended up just 1 lap down. David wrecked out.
Yep, I just self spun it on the back stretch, I think, and got it wound up just enough that it didn't bounce back onto the track, but it meatballed the car, and that was it.
All right, Sunday Open, Tony Rochette, DNF. Started third, but leader blinked out right before the green flag, so got to start the race. Led some laps, and the cars passed me, and I was right behind him as he slowed up in the corner, got in his rear, and wrecked us both. Ugh. Greg, P8.
Yeah, it was. That's a long race, and I could only do the Sunday morning because I worked Saturday morning and I couldn't stay up Friday night or anything. But I was competitive all race. Midpoint, I had a guy that he was kind of being a pain to everybody in the room, but he got in front of me and or he was way actually ahead of in front of me, and then he kind of had got loose off the corner and lost about 8 positions or so, and he fell back right in front of me, and he blocked going into the one corner, trying to like slow up my momentum, which kind of forced me back to another car. So I followed him for another lap, just kind of rode around on him, and we went. He got loose coming out of two once, and I was right on his bumper, and it was just enough to spin him, and he got a couple other cars and stuff, and then he proceeded to get fresh tires every time he was in the pits, and come after me um, for the next, I don't know, 50 laps. He would try and, he was trying for about 2 laps to wreck me. Kind of did what Denny Hamlin did to Ross Chastain at Gateway last year. I described it. He drove me down to the bottom. He would push me into the corner. It took him about 2 laps till he finally spun me where it brought out a caution. I didn't get any real damage. I didn't think it was. I got tapped a little bit, but it was obviously enough to take a little bit of speed out of me. But I was still able to get a P8 with it. I just wish I could have had a car at the end that didn't have straightaway speed taken away from me by someone who, I don't know, throwing a little temper tantrum. Is that what the word of the week? Temper tantrum.
He's not worth a protest, or you let it go?
I didn't protest. I wanted to see if he was going to try something. I thought maybe someone else, the other people in the room weren't happy with him because the wreck that, uh, when he did wreck me, I didn't get into. I got a tap from another car, but he took out a bunch of other cars because of the checkups and stuff. And I thought some of the other guys were really pissed at him. But he kept trying and trying it, so I thought maybe someone else did. I still have the video. I don't know how long you can do it for, but I don't know. It's not really worth it to me.
All right, David, you got dumped on lap 2.
Yeah, dude just was not there and said he thought I was giving him the lane because I was taking the normal racing line. So dumb. I mean, what do you do?
All right, Sunday fix. Justin forgot to check his tires, DNF. Now I jumped into team speak in the middle of his race. I didn't run with him because I'm like, no way I'm going to run another 5-hour race. Um, but he was like in the middle of it, like 200 miles in or something, and he said, "Man, I just pitted and I forgot to check my tires. I'm out of here. I'm done." He threw his headset off and walked out of the room. Uh, and I told him, "You probably ran the 600 too many times this week, and you just got fed up." Let's talk Wednesday Open at Gateway. Yikes, P17. I had a good run going till about lap 30, and I got sideswiped by a guy at over 4 minutes damage. I did get most of it fixed. There's about 40 to go. I got my last set of tires. I did keep getting involved in different incidents and just had to survive for a P17. Tom Dreiling, he finished back in the 20s, I think. He had a bad race too. McKenzie, who had to leave, he got a P7, started 10th, ran about 10 laps. Then on the caution, my VR went funny and I was looking out the side of my car. I pulled to the side to stay out of the way and got sent to the back for driving on the pit road exit. On the restart, the car that was supposed to pass me was nowhere to be seen, so I got a black flag and had to hold for 50 seconds. Luckily, a caution came out as I was doing that, so I only went 2 laps down, fought my way back, and started P6 on the green white checker, but couldn't do anything with it. The only X's I got were 1X for off track when my VR went funny, and 4X when somebody ran into me from behind. David, P13.
Yeah, just a mid-pack car. Stayed out of everything, and that was where I finished.
All right. Kyle, P4. Kyle Pendergraft. After a long break and silently been doing a few races lately, I had a yo-yo race. Started outside pole and stayed there until about lap 30, and my tires were junk and nosed the outside wall and fell back. After a mid-race caution, I pitted for tires and repairs and just went back and forth through the teens and 20s. After a final repair and new tires, with about 20 to go, I made my march to the front. After a late race caution with 12 to go, I went in for my last set, and away I went. Restarted 8th and just didn't let anyone get near me. Made some bold moves for position, was able to bring home a P4. Felt good to get a good NIS finish, as my last several races have been junk. Thursday Open, David, DNF.
Yeah, everything that can go wrong has gone wrong. That is all.
Ouch. Yeah, you've had some rough luck. My race, wow. I got pole position. I couldn't believe it. It wasn't even a Q set. It was my race set. But happy to get a pole. I'll have to look it up and see if that's the first one of the year or not. I think I might have one other, so maybe the second one. I did pretty good on the short run. I made it to the second set of tires, but by the time they got old, I was sliding around and I spun by myself down to the inner wall and smashed the left front hard and couldn't steer it. And I didn't want to drive it broken, so I parked it. DNF. Let's talk other racing. I ran official trucks at Talladega. I was leading on the way, coming to the checker. Out of 4, I got turned by the guy behind me. Ouch. Ran Gen 4 at Michigan. Started 21st. Finished P3. Man, that's a great finish for me in that car. Gen 4 at Texas was the next week, and I ran P12 there. A Open, Kyle Pendergraft, P11, had a good car, but a bad driver was driving it. Stayed in the teens all race long and just couldn't make any moves. McKenzie said he ran 2 late model races, started 10th in one and fifth in the other. Finished both races third with no incident points gained. I love running this car. All right, final thoughts. David Hall.
Looking forward to the Majors 24. We haven't set our schedule yet, but we got 4 drivers lined up. We've got a real ace on there. His name is Cable, but yeah, that's his last name, and he's quick. The rest of us are slow, so we're gonna run 3 stints each and make him run the rest of the race. Hopefully, we'll get a finish. The real key is just stay out of the garage.
That's pretty neat. All right, Greg Hectus, welcome back, and your final thoughts.
I'm just looking forward to getting back to racing and getting back to normal life here. I've been gone because we had a tragedy in our family. So little moment. It sucked. My 5-year-old niece passed away from a strep A disease that she contracted. Contracted strep A that got into her blood, and that was it for her. She didn't last long once that happened, and it's been a little bit tough. Trying to find motivation to keep going and stuff these last little bits, and it's been tough being a parent to 2 young girls and watching my sister lose her only child. So just trying to get back at life and enjoy it again, coming up into the summer here, and I'm hoping I can get back to racing and do what I like to do to kind of take my mind away from the bad things that can happen in this world.
Yeah, so sorry to hear that. Yeah, it can take a while to kind of get back on the horse, but yeah, get back on that horse, Greg. All right, my final thoughts this week at Gateway has been humbling. Man, I get a pole, I'm running up front, but get some old tires on me, I can't even drive the dang thing. But seeing David, struggle as well, maybe it's not just me. But yeah, it's tough, and I'm not looking forward to Chicago Street Course either coming up. Haven't even bought the track yet, let alone tried it. But want to do well in the points. Trying to beat my teammate Tom. It's going to be a tall order. Tom is a better driver than me, and so I don't think I'm going to do it, but I'm going to put forth the effort. And so I'm hoping to get a better finish on Friday at Gateway for those points. Other than that, that's pretty much all I got. I got the poster. It's not a poster, but it's a painting coming, a 3-foot by 2-foot painting of my NASCAR Gen 7 car. And it should be next week, I think I get to pick it up. So maybe this time on the show next week, I'll have it. Of course, I'll be putting up videos and pictures of it. I'm going to be super proud of this. I can't believe how good it's going to look. Haven't seen it yet, but I just know the artwork that Bobby has put together was outstanding, and this thing is going to be brilliant. And with that, hey, we'll see you.